I mean, I remember as a child, it was almost like an extended family area. Everybody knew everybody, and every house was your haven. They felt that they were being displaced.
Cloverleaf is something that was put into place in 1960. And prior to 1960, Colfax and Federal was a regular street intersection, and the Cloverleaf is more of a highway style. The community I grew up in was so tightly knit, they often talked about and told stories about what had changed, and they talked about that a lot. It was something that we were told to stay away from because it was dangerous, loud. What it really did was it took a large part of the community from the west side of Federal, generally a Jewish community that it wiped out. And then on the east side of Federal, which would have been the bottoms, the Hispanic community, it didn't immediately take a lot of houses out, but what it did was it isolated the bottoms from a community that you could easily walk into. You no longer had any walking access into that, and it took away just the ability to get to businesses easily that were along Federal Boulevard. Being around here, it wasn't even as well protected as it was then. I was about this tall, and just the noise and the sounds and the movements of the cars, it was just frightening. It was terrifying. And so I stayed away from here. We all stayed away, which meant that access to different parts of the neighborhood were just completely cut off. Anyone who grew up in West Denver or grew up near the east side of the Platte River, anywhere in that area, knew about the Star Bakery because it was a really important business to the entire area. It smelled like fresh bread all the time. It was really, really comforting. My dad kept a beautiful green yard, he was very, very proud of his lawn. There was a house that had fruit trees, and I call it an urban garden.
They had a big grass open field, and we would go over there and play football.
I still dream about that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I remember it was so sad for me. I could not drive by that intersection for 10 years.
I mean, that was a good neighborhood to be raised in.
Make street access accessible. Without it, it's just transportation. That's all it is.
My grandfather especially, because he couldn't go to his synagogue any longer, because that basically was part of the Cloverleaf. Shortly afterwards, that was demolished. And those residences were displaced, and those businesses were displaced. People felt a death in their life.
There's a lot of speed. People pick up speed immediately. Coming here to turn left this morning on West Howard Place, I almost got ran off by another car who was probably traveling 55 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. I know there's been a bunch of fatalities that are related to the Cloverleaf because it wasn't unusual at all when you're driving by there to see funeral flowers or, in memoriam flowers. When you're used to seeing that tells you that this is not a safe place for people to be. I can't imagine, if I were raising children in this area, it'd be like common sense would tell you never go near that place. That's the effect of the Cloverleaf, is you tear communities apart when you build something like that, because there's no way to walk through there. So something like the Cloverleaf, if that's taken out and you replace it with streets where people can walk, street level, ground level, where people can walk and people can bike, and you add to that green space, and by green space I don't mean just grass, but you add to that places for people to gather so that they can begin to get to know one another, businesses that can thrive. You can create geographically a space that helps people reconnect. And what's frightening to me is that there are generations of Americans that do not know what that word means. They do not understand what a close community has to offer. Community begins at the street level. That's what this used to be, and that is completely gone, but it's doable. It's rebuildable. It's rebuildable with some thought and some care about the people who are going to populate this area again. This is a little jewel in the middle of Denver. And if you really sat down and thought it through about how to do that, if you had a dedicated group of people who said, this is the vision, and we are here, and it would take a generation, it could be done.